And I think you have to kind of take a step back and see what the biggest players in the world are doing. And the biggest players are the central banks who are massively de-dollarizing and buying commodities. And I think that's kind of the thrust. That fits hand in glove what Zoltan Pozsar said. We are heading into a new era based on commodities and transparency, not opaque debt instruments and promises that seem to fall short. And I just think that this is something that will be a very, very pervasive theme in 2024.
This is Kaiser Johnson, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for December 18th through December 25th, 2023, while supplies last. First, we feature 1 10th-ounce gold maples at just $30 over melt with a minimum order of 5. Next, we have silver eagles at $4.99 over spot, making this a great time to swap silver bars into silver eagles at the lowest premium in years. Finally, constitutional 90% silver is just $3 over spot per ounce. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're always glad to have this returning guest. Andy Schectman is the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals. He joins us for this weekly market update. Today is Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. Andy, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Great to be back. Happy holidays. And I hear the family in the background. So,
yeah, I was going to say, if you hear the patter of little feet, that's because we had a birth of a grandbaby just exactly 1 week ago. We drove all the way across the country to be with them here for about a month. So we're delighted to be here. It's grandbaby number 13 for us. So
it warms my heart to hear that. And it's a wonderful thing. And congratulations to the family.
Oh, thank you so much. And that's why I'm also out of uniform and everything. But here we are, not in my usual surroundings. But we wanted to touch base with you again. We only have this and one more, if we're lucky, weekly market updates this year, looking forward to 2024. And a lot has happened, a lot of changes that you foresaw and that you prepared our viewers for over the past several years have come to pass this year, and there are some that are still in the works, still in flight, but the events seem to be coalescing, that leading in the direction that you've told us to keep our eyes open for, and we're grateful for that. We wanted to get your latest quick update on any additional signs and signals that people should be aware of, or any opportunities that they may need to be made aware of as well to be prepared. That's the whole basis. We started actually December 2013, so this is the 10th year anniversary of what was Reluctant Preppers, now Liberty and Finance, and we look to you these days for some special guidance in the area of preparedness on matters of solid assets for families to prepare for coming times of increased volatility in our financial lives.
I appreciate that. And now something kind of dawned on me the other night, and I was thinking, there are a lot of people out there, Dunnigan, that have an understanding that things aren't right. They can feel it. They can see what's happening here in the country, the divisiveness, the lack of unity, all of the things that we've talked about here, where you're defined by who you vote for, and all of the problems in this country. And people understand that. They feel that. They sense it, even if they can't articulate it. But it kind of dawned on me, seeing as that a lot of what I talk about happens outside the country. And I think the world is changing so much more quickly than most of the people in this country understand. And it's because there's virtually no coverage of the rest of the world in the American media. And so I don't think that the people listening to you have a good sense of it, certainly not just because of me, but all the wonderful guests that you have on. But the people out there just don't have any understanding. One of the things I wanted to touch on real quick, we talked a lot about the United Arab Emirates 2 weeks in a row. The first week we talked about how they said we're not going to take dollars for oil anymore. And then last week we talked about how it's been kind of hard to find that story that MSN brought out on behalf of another site. But I found it interesting, and I don't think we talked about this, but that, the announcement supposedly was made 2 days before 200 countries came to Dubai for the United Nations Summit on climate change. Great. So, the gentleman presiding over it is the head of the state-owned United Arab Emirates oil company. They make that announcement 2 days before 200 delegates show up in the country. big announcement. We agree on that, I believe. But one of the things that happened subsequently that I find very interesting, and I'm not sure if we touched on this or not. If we did, forgive me. If not, maybe for those who haven't heard it, I think it's very interesting. And that is that an impromptu meeting by Putin happened a day or two after the summit ended. And that's relevant to me because, look, you had Putin flanked by 4 Russian MiG fighter jets make an impromptu unannounced meeting to Dubai right after the summit ended, right after they, United Arab Emirates told the world we're not going to take dollars for oil going forward. And then goes directly, and it's a big deal because, look, Putin hasn't left the country more than twice in the last few years because of the American or Western bounty on his head. So, he flies to the UAE right after this announcement, right after the meeting. When you put it in context with, Gaddafi and Hussein, who made similar announcements, is it coincidental or not? And then goes directly from there to Saudi Arabia, where OPEC then announces an increase in their $1.1 million or 1.1 million barrel per day reduction to 2 million plus barrels per day reduction. Is it all coincidental, or are all of these things lining up and gaining more and more critical mass, velocity? And I think the answer, at least in my mind, is yes, they are gaining critical mass. And so I just wanted to touch on that in terms of the BRICS. That to me was the most noteworthy thing. I did want to also mention that we have a list, and I'm just gonna touch on them. And I've prepared for maybe another interview what each one of these countries has to offer. But I'm going to run through the list of the 20 known applicants to BRICS. Another 20 have formally applied, and they are as follows: Afghanistan, Algeria, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Cuba, Ecuador, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, Senegal, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Thailand, Turkey, Uruguay, Uzbekistan, and Venezuela. Now, the common theme to all of these countries, by and large, is natural resources. Many of them are untapped. Lots of them are very natural resource rich, or offer also key shipping and transport lines or routes. And the term logarithmic decay applies here too. Little by little by little by little. Many of these countries in and of themselves wouldn't amount to much, like Venezuela, right? They have the world's largest known oil reserves, the largest in the world. And so when you talk about these countries that are all signing on, there's another 20 that we're not sure of yet that have informally applied. Heck, by next summer, you could see as many 40 applicants or more to the BRICS and gaining massive critical mass, or adoption, as the crypto space likes to call it. And that's when I think you'll see a greater likelihood of big changes, like a common settlement currency being discussed when you have a massive adoption. So just touching on the BRICS for a moment, and that's one thing I wanted to chat about. I think it's very relevant. The only other thing that I'll mention regarding other countries is we've talked a lot about countries buying copious amounts of gold. Central banks, the most well-informed traders on the globe, are buying copious amounts of gold. And we know that. And so, the most gold that the central banks have ever bought over the last 2 years. But one thing that we're not talking enough about is silver. And I'll just use India as an example. We know India bought 304 million ounces of silver last year, a huge amount. Well, they bought 60 million ounces in October and 20 million ounces in November, and that's just what we know about. The country of India has bought nearly 400 million ounces of silver in the last 2 years. The legitimacy of what these countries are doing should not be overlooked, and it's serious. And again, if all we do is look at price and listen to the Western media, we will ignore all of this. But I just want people to know that this is why people are missing so much of what's happening, because the media is not telling us what's happening over there. That's what I'm focused on, and troubled more so maybe by what's happening here. But you put the two together and it becomes very serious. And so I think as 2024 is upon us, my main focus will continue to be what's happening over there, but never losing sight of what's happening here, and putting them together in a context where they all start to make sense. I think is something that I look forward to doing, but something that hopefully we can wake up some people's eyes who are very well read, just maybe reading the wrong stuff. Well,
yeah, I would even underscore another thing, that a lot of the press that's happening in the U.S. along even the mainstream financial channels, et cetera, is not telling people what they really do need to know about what's going on in our country as well. We were just driving over here today past a world headquarters of a major corporation. There were 12 cars in the parking lot. This is a work week, and there's nobody there because people don't need corporate glass houses anymore to work in. And so that touches on what you and others have cautioned us about, of a coming apocalypse of commercial real estate. There's been a huge shift in the usage of commercial real estate by corporate America. That is not yet reflected in the bank statements of those banks that own those loans, et cetera, nor about the FDIC only covering a fraction of a percent of the total deposit, nor about the Dodd-Frank law, meaning nothing in the bank is yours, nor about the great taking, telling people that nothing in their brokerage account is theirs, et cetera, et cetera. So the things that are really going to hit home in terms of people's earnings and savings and retirements are not being talked about by the mainstream financial press. They're talking about whatever scandals, fake scandals, whatever, coming out of Washington, et cetera, things that are distracting, that get a lot of viewers watching things that aren't really going to shape the decades of their lives ahead and those of their children and grandchildren. So I'm grateful for your added emphasis of the global perspective of what's happening that's going to fundamentally shift the tectonic plates below the U.S. dollar and all that goes with it, all the assumptions that have been built into the past half a century, that people assume the next half century must look a little bit the same as the last, and it's not going to. And we've had others, whether it's Alistair McLeod, whether it's Michael Pento, active money manager, and others, that have warned us that people who are basing their current assumptions about their own current retirement or hopeful near coming retirement on things being the same or similar for the next few decades as they were in the last few decades are going to be sorely mistaken, and they're being terribly underserved by, frankly, malpractice on the part of the mainstream press, even covering the domestic situation here in the U.S.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're being told that what the Fed just did was signal victory against inflation. Yet they're in my opinion, they're waving the white flag, and here they are with the CPI showing 4% on inflation, yet their target is 2%. So they're stopping their assault on inflation when they're still only half the way there, reigniting perhaps inflation. And I think it's an ominous sign. To me, it is not something to be celebrated. It's something to be very, very concerned about. And when you look at John Williams of Shadow Stats, he'll tell you, even using the 1990 adjustment to the CPI, not even the 1980 where the numbers were more accurate, we're still at 8% on the 1990, 10% on the 1980 measurement of inflation. So when you talk about going the other direction, pivoting and up to 3 cuts in 2024, we're a long ways away from their target. It seems to me they're giving up on inflation. They're doing what all governments have done, choosing the printing press over austerity. And there's even dissension amongst the ranks in the Fed, where the other John Williams, not the one from Shadow Stats, but the Fed economist, says, it's actually irresponsible for us to be thinking about cuts in 2024. We still need to make sure that we've got a hold on inflation. So there's misinformation, and then there's just complete, flat out being wrong. And they've been wrong on inflation for the last 2-3 years. First, there was no inflation, and then it was transitory, whatever that meant. Then it was structural. Then we've got it licked, and now maybe we don't. And the bottom line is that you can't rely on the information we're being given from any of these entities that are supposedly giving us the scoop. And I think you have to kind of take a step back and see what the biggest players in the world are doing. And the biggest players are the central banks who are massively de-dollarizing and buying commodities. And I think that's kind of the thrust that fits hand in glove what Zoltan Pozar said. We are heading into a new era based on commodities and transparency, not opaque debt instruments and promises that seem to fall short. And I just think that this is something that will be a very, very pervasive theme in 2024, and look forward to continuing to follow it with you.
And as always, as part of that, you're working hard to make things affordable for people who are trying to accumulate real assets. Do you want to remind people what the continued specials are this week from last week?
Yeah, we're just going to continue them from last week. The pre-1965 constitutional silver, $3 an ounce over melt. The Silver Eagles, $4.99 over melt, 2023 and backdates. And then the 1/10 ounce gold Maple Leafs, $30 over melt. So those are the three that will continue here, and I think they're good ones, especially heading into the end of the year here, where I couldn't think of a better thing to own heading into 2024 than Silver Eagles and pre-65 junk silver. To me, that's, from a silver standpoint, it is the best thing to own, and the utility and functionality you get with the 10th ounce Maple Leafs or Eagles and the junk silver is paramount. So happy to continue offering them while we still have good supply, and that's what we'll do until we run out.
Just wanted to remind everyone that because of the end of year shutdown of our bullion operations from Christmas through New Year's, any timing of your normal order processing and delivery, you better figure about an extra week in there. And that's in addition to all of the shipping that, of course, UPS and others are having to handle to make sure everything happens, and bank holidays, that sort of thing. So the wheels are still turning. We can still process orders, etc., but there will be an interruption delay in getting deliveries out the door until the early part of next year. But happy to help you make sure that you get those orders locked in as soon as you are ready.
Good point. Very important point, because people want their stuff immediately. And, I was even just, I don't know what I was watching where I saw it, but as far as the post office is concerned, you have I think I was watching like the morning news on Fox, and they were saying that in order to get Christmas gifts sent across the country, you have just until like the end of this week to guarantee that the post office gets it there before Christmas. So that's what happens. They get so overwhelmed that their guarantees of 2-day or overnight, they're not so much a guarantee at this time of the season. It's a hope, but typically with that kind of volume, it's not going to happen. So yeah, good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, again, God willing, we'll have another weekly market update next week, the last one of 23. Looking forward to 2024, and planning also, folks, don't miss it. We're going to have a multi-member panel. Looking forward to 2024. And if you don't want to miss a single episode with Andy or with any of our guests on Liberty and Finance, make sure that you go to libertyandfinance.com, put in your name, your email address, confirm on the confirming email, and you'll get one email per day with Andy and any of our other guests and the weekly specials. And Andy, as always, just thank you on behalf of all of our viewers for keeping us in your corner here and making sure that you keep us informed of what's going on, the big picture and the details inside the supply chain, all the way from the top to the bottom. We look to you for that, and we're grateful for your presence on Liberty and Finance.
Pleasure is mine. Dunnigan, look forward to it, my friend, and congratulations on the new addition to your family, and my best to all involved. So you take care, and everyone else out there, have a great rest of your week.
God bless you all and your families.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.